By now, you've probably heard of those popular drugs being used for weight loss, some of which are made to fight diabetes and some of which are being prescribed off-label.
Despite all the chatter, Rena finds that there are some things you may not realize about the drugs and who is using them.
We're making chicken stir fry.
Shelley Apple is a type 2 diabetic, has been for 25 years.
I've learned over the years to eat better, but I'm gonna have a beer and a hot dog at a Twins game.
I mean, you gotta live, right? Amy Velsor has been struggling with her weight since she was 8 years old.
Yep. Being a picky eater, you can sure down an ice cream cone.
Last year, both women started those injectable medications.
For years and years, I could not get my A1C down, and it's now 6.5. It's supposed to be under 7, and I couldn't do it without the Ozempic.
I'm currently on a 1.7 dose of Wegovy, and I am on it for weight loss. I have lost about 25 pounds on a good day.
We asked Shelley and Amy to come talk openly about a topic that has, for some reason, become taboo. Diet and exercise and other meds were not enough to control Shelley's diabetes. And diet and exercise were also not enough to help Amy get to a healthy weight. But a shortage of the drugs has people taking sides.
There's still a lot of guilt because I know people who have diabetes and this drug is life-sustaining for them or part of a regimen that's life-sustaining for them.
I drove sometimes 40 miles to try to find a pharmacy that had it. The people that really needed it couldn't get it, but celebrities could. That was very frustrating.
Some people have been using medicine.
I think we can all agree, as does Eli Lilly, who ran this commercial during the Oscars this year, that already thin celebrities should not have first access to the drug. But are we putting obese people whose health is at risk in the same category?
I'm fond of saying to many whoever will listen that these products are some of the best things that ever happened to all of us and some of the worst things that ever happened to us.
As an endocrinologist at the University of Michigan, Dr. Andrew Crafson specializes in diabetes and obesity. He says the topic is complicated for a variety of reasons. But let's first explain what these drugs are and how they work. They come under a variety of names like Ozempic and Wegovy, Mounjaro, and Zepbound, just to name a few.
They help the body make more insulin so that you can process the carbohydrates that you eat. And it can also signal the brain to be less hungry, more full, and it can slow down how quickly food goes through the stomach. So food sits there longer and you do feel a bit fuller.
Ozempic and Wegovy are made by the same company, Novo Nordisk, one for diabetes, the other for weight loss. So what's the difference?
Semaglutide is in both Ozempic and Wegovy. It is exactly the same medicine. Wegovy has a slightly higher maximum dose versus Ozempic, but they are quite similar.
And as more people become eligible for these medications, the less there is to go around. But who should get it? Yes, those with diabetes, of course. But Dr. Crafson says untreated obesity can cause everything from diabetes to uncontrolled hypertension to heart disease, and the list goes on and on. But cost and health disparities have become barriers.
People cannot afford it. They're way too expensive for those who don't have any coverage. And then insurance companies are deciding, this is too expensive. If the prices are not lowered by the pharmaceutical companies, we can't afford covering these medicines for so many people.
He says some pharmacies have even refused to carry the drugs because it's become too much trouble. But the biggest problem are the shortages.
No, we're hard at work running our production lines 24 hours, 7 days a week to change that.
Novo Nordisk did not return our requests for an interview, but we did find this on their website.
Our aim is to support a level of new patients that does not exceed our current supply capacity.
I think what we should have done with these drugs is what we did with the COVID vaccine. There's a limited supply. We should have rationed it and given it to people based on their need.
Johan Hari spent a year researching these drugs and wrote the book Magic Pill. He also takes Ozempic for weight loss. He agrees that the cost and shortages are the biggest issues.
So we can end up in this dystopian situation where the Real Housewives of New Jersey get to be bone thin while the real school children of New Jersey, get diabetes at the age of 12. This is not a good situation.
So let's just say you have access. Should you even take these drugs? Are they safe? Johan's book covers what he says are 12 disturbing risks of taking these drugs, including the potential increased risk of cancer, the effects on people with eating disorders, and any long-term effects that we just don't know about yet. The risks versus the rewards are an individual choice and should be discussed with your doctor. But remember, Dr. Crafson says we already know the risks of untreated obesity.
We know these are great medications. We just want to make them accessible to more people who need it.
He also warns we can't just medicate away obesity. We must also pair these drugs with a healthier lifestyle, including diet and exercise.
It's a game changer.
And for Shelley and Amy, it has been life-changing.
Yeah, absolutely. I would do it again. No questions asked.
When an FDA-approved drug is in short supply, it creates a loophole of sorts, allowing pharmacies to create their own recipes, if you will, or compounded versions of the drugs. Dr. Crafson warns not to go this route because these compounded versions, they have no oversight, meaning you don't really even know what's in them. And these drugs, of course, as we mentioned, should be used with a physician's guidance. So much more that we learned about this. So much that we couldn't fit in there. Johan's interview was incredibly interesting. The doctor was so helpful. Those two women were so brave to come in and talk about this as well, because it seems to be like hush hush taboo right now. So thank you to them for that.
Yeah, it's interesting, and we still don't know that much about it, is the thing, right? With all these millions of people that are going to go on the drug and maybe be on it for life, it'll be an interesting experiment. See what happens.
One of the things the doctor did say, though, is there is some sort of, I don't know what you want to call it, but we think about things differently with obesity than we do with other drugs, right? Like I take thyroid medication. I'll need to take that for the rest of my life. Why is that any different?
Yeah.
So it's a good way to
Interesting
look at
debate.
it. We have so much more information online for you with this article.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Rena.
Rena.
Yep.